So the next idea is going to be about trigonometry. Here's a question. It's about bearings, I think. Two boats, the angle between their patches. Okay. So the first thing that you're supposed to do whenever you get a trigonometry question with no diagram, of course, is to make a diagram because even I cannot do them mentally. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just kind of, so you know how they say same point P? There's two boats, they start moving at the same point, and then one of them is moving at this speed, the other is moving at this speed. They're both moving 70 degrees apart from each other, basically. So make a random point, name it P, of course. A is moving there, like, I don't know, this is A, and B is moving like there. And one of them is moving at 20 kilometers per hour, the other is at 32 kilometers per hour. Find the distance between them after 2.5 hours. So this is a tricky question, but the first, like, they don't have distances given to you. That's the trick. So what you should do is find out the distances. How do you guys think I can find out the distance that A will move at this speed in 2.5 hours? Hmm? If I give you speed and time, how do you find distance, basically? Anybody?
Is it speed times time?
Yep. So the way I remember it is that speed is distance over time. So now this is the only one I remember, and then I just build the other ones myself. So I can multiply both sides by time to get the distance formula. Speed times time. So 20 times 2.5 hours would be 50 kilometers, and B has moved 32 kilometers, sorry, 32 kilometers per hour in 2.5 hours would be, one second, 80 kilometers. So these are the distances. Now the good thing is, if you feel like you've pulled out all the information that's been given to you, then you can essentially ignore the question at this point. I mean, don't ignore the thing they asked you to find. That would not be very wise. But ignore the information that's been given because you've already used all of it. Now, A is standing over here, B is standing over here, and I want to find the distance between them, so this distance. Okay? Now, Jessica, Sophia, I know for a fact you know how to do this. Jessica, what do you think? Which rule can I use? Any idea?
Not
If you
the
don't,
sine rule.
sorry,
Sine?
sine. Okay. So, Sophia, why do you think I can't use a sine rule?
Wait, no. It's the tan rule.
No, there is no tan rule. So, I mean, there would be if this was a 90-degree triangle, basically. But this is not a right angle triangle, so I cannot use the SOHCAHTOA stuff. I have to use either the sine rule or the cosine rule, basically. Right? And okay, so Sophia, what do you think? Which one should I use?
Cosine.
Cosine. How do you explain why you need to use the cosine rule?
It's a bit hard to explain, but it's because you have two sides and one included angle. You kind of just have to search up the
No, but what if I
rows.
had this angle and I didn't have this one? Could I use this cosine rule then?
No, because they have to be around
Yes,
the
exactly. That's
thing.
exactly the thing. For the cosine rule has two cases. The first case is what I like to call the scissor case. I don't know why I call it that anymore, actually. It's basically the case where you know two sides, like this one, and you know the angle between them. In this case, it's a like no-brainer. You have to use cosine. Okay, that's the case number one. And the other case for cosine is when you know all three sides of a triangle. The moment you know all three sides of a triangle, immediately go for the cosine rule. No other rule can be used here. Okay, these are the only two situations where you will ever need to use the cosine rule in your entire lives. Okay, so this is clearly the first case. The sine rule, just to recap, is used. So the sine rule requires pairs. You might remember it as like, for example, if you have a triangle A, B, C, and this would be side A. Do you guys know how we name sides? Like the opposite side is called the small letter version. Do you know this? Yeah. So for example, if this is corner A or angle A, we will call the opposite side small a. Similarly, this will be side small c, and this will be side small b. Now, for this given triangle, if you like, the sine rule says that the sine of an angle divided by its corresponding side is the same. This ratio is the same for all side angle pairs. So the sine rule you will only use if you know one full pair, meaning if you know an angle and you know its corresponding side, and you know one half pair. So like for example, you know the angle A and side A, perfect. That's one full pair. And on top of that, you know one other thing. For example, you know this angle. You can find the missing side by using the sine rule in that case. That's the only trick that you need to remember when to use the sine rule. If it's still not clear, by the way, if it's like, if you know, if your trigonometry is kind of really bad, we can have a separate class on this. Let me know now, actually. Let me kind of put that in my plans. What do you guys think? Should we do a 30-minute session where we talk about like cosine sine rule?
Yeah, if it's possible.
Yeah, of course. That's the plan. Like the thing is, if one of you is having more trouble than the others, we'll have a separate like individual class. Of course, everybody else can join too, but it's gonna be. By the way, it's free. Uh, I'm not gonna charge you guys for that. So I mean, of course, you should join. Uh, so this is it. Now, what was I gonna say? Okay, so cosine rule. This is the case we have right now. You see? So we're going to use the cosine rule. Now, how do we use the cosine rule? Setting up the cosine rule is unfortunately one of the most difficult trigonometric formulas out there. I'm going to let Sophia do it because it's too difficult for me even. Sophia, set it up for me. I'm trying to find the distance, by the way, this guy.
Okay. So in that case, you want to make that the subject, so you would say d squared 2 is equal to which letters do we have?
Don't use the letters. You can use the numbers directly.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
50 squared plus 80 squared minus 2 times 50 times 80 cosine of the letter we're trying to find.
No. So we know the angle. We're trying to find the side.
Oh,
so 70.
right.
So
my bad.
why did Sophia say that since we're trying to find D, we have to make D the subject? Because, well, I don't know why I'm explaining this, but that's exactly what she meant. The thing you're trying to find needs to be the subject, okay? Always. In the cosine rule, if you do not make the thing you're trying to find the subject, you cannot solve it. I mean, could you solve it? You could solve it, it's just going to be a very big pain. So don't do that. Make the thing you're trying to find the subject. That's one thing. The other thing, I'll explain this, by the way, in the little 30-minute session we'll do. But the other important thing is that the side that you make your subject is whose corresponding angle you need to put. Is the side whose corresponding angle needs to be here. Okay, so you cannot put 50 here and put 70 degrees here. Why? Because 50 and 70 are not corresponding side angles. Okay, the fact that I put D there was why I could put 70 in this angle side, because 70 and D are corresponding side angles. So this is another reminder for those who already know the cosine rule. For those who don't, we'll discuss this idea more in the class. That's basically it, by the way. This is just, solve this and that's the answer. Yeah. So this was a pretty straightforward question on cosine rule. That's about it. Okay, so we have a painful looking question this time. We have a bunch of points. Let's read through this carefully. So we have the origin, nice. Point A, right there. We have an angle, OPA. Which is this guy. And there's a point P which we're not really sure of. All we know is that the y value is 10, but we don't know what the x value is. Okay, so it could be anywhere on this line actually. Okay. Okay, it actually says that this point moves along the horizontal line 10. So it's basically it can be anywhere. Okay. Now, how important that is we're gonna find out later. Now, show that AP is equal to this. This is actually badly written because they should have said show that this is equal to that, because AP means a line, but this means the distance, okay? So what they meant is show that the distance between A and P is given by this expression, okay? This is something that you guys are supposed to already know how to do. You're supposed to simply find the distance between 2 points. The 2 points are 8, 6 and x10. Okay, those are the 2 points. How do you find distances? The distance formula is find the difference between the x values. So x minus 8. You could also write 8 minus x. I just wanted to write x minus 8 because I don't like my variable being negative. X minus 8 whole squared plus the difference between the y values. So 10 minus 6 whole squared. And then put a square root over all of that. That's the distance formula. Now we just have to clean this up. X minus 8 whole squared is basically this. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 squared is 16. And if we simplify this further, we will get plus 64 plus 16 is 80. So that's it. So the distance is given by this. Oh my god, that's the same. Wow. All right. So now write down a similar expression for OP in terms of x. I hate it when they do this because, like, you know, the not very bright students, they get a bit scared because, like, what do you mean similar expression? All they mean is just find the distance between O and P. That's it. Okay. I might have indirectly called you guys not very bright, by the way. I apologize for that. So we need to find the distance between O and P now. This is easier actually because O is 0, 0. It's a pretty nice, well-behaved point. P is x10. So this is a free 2 points, by the way. Um, the distance formula is going to be the same. The difference between the x values, meaning x minus 0, because see x minus 0 whole squared, plus 10 minus 0 whole squared, which basically is just equal to x squared plus 100. That's it. All right, are you guys following so far?
Yeah.
Good, because things are about to go very, very horribly down. Okay, so now we have hence, your favorite word again, show that cosine of OPA is equal to this. Wow. Remember, you have a triangle, okay? They're asking you to find essentially this angle. This is OPA, okay? Let's call it P for now because it's annoying writing OPA over and over again. Now, remember, while you don't know what it is, you do know an expression for this distance. It is this, okay? So let's call it OP for now because we do know it, right? It's square root of x squared plus 100. And again, while you don't know what this is exactly, you do have an expression for him. It is, let's call it AP for now, okay? What do you guys think? What rule could I use if I know what this side is, if I know what this side is, and I'm trying to find this angle? By the way, yeah, this is not exactly the most obvious question actually, but technically I also know this side, don't I? The length of this side, I mean. I can find the length of this side also because two things. Number one, I'm finding the length of this side because I can. Now, the other point is they want me to find an angle. And cosine rule has two cases. The first case is the scissor case, but the scissor case is used to find a missing side. The other case is when you know all three sides of a triangle. If you know all three sides of a triangle, you can find any angle in that triangle using all three sides, using the cosine rule. So that is another reason for why I'm going to find this side. Because when I find this side, I'll have all three sides of the triangle, and I'm looking for an angle. So that's the cosine rule's second case. The length of this side can be found by using the distance formula, which will be 8 minus 0 whole squared plus 6 minus 0 whole squared, which is 64 plus 36, which is 100. Square root of 100 is 10. So the length of this side is 10. Okay? So again, I'm trying to find the length of OA, which is 8 minus 0 whole squared plus 6 minus 0 whole squared, which is square root of 100, which is 10. Now, I know all three sides, and I'm trying to find P. Which side should be the subject if I'm trying to find this angle? What do you think? Which side should be the subject in my cosine rule?
Is it OA?
Yep, because again, the angle that you're trying to, like the angle you're interested in and the side, the corresponding side, they like this side has to be the subject because that's the angle we want because they're corresponding. So let's write down the cosine rule. It's going to be 10 squared equals OP squared plus AP squared minus, because the other two sides are OP and AP, minus 2 times OP times AP times cosine of the angle that I'm trying to find. Let's call it OAP. No, OPA, sorry. Okay, so now all I gotta do is look, what do I have to do? I have to make cosine OPA the subject. So I gotta make this guy the subject. Let's start. I will start by moving both of these guys to the left by subtracting them. And I have this now. And then I will divide everything, both sides I mean, by this stuff, which will give me 10 squared minus OP squared minus AP squared divided by negative 2 times OP times AP equals cosine OPA. Now, what I'm going to do is, watch carefully, I'm going to take this negative and I'm going to apply it everywhere at the top. Because a negative can be at the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to apply the negative to everything at the top. AP squared plus OP squared minus 100. Because both of these guys became positive and this guy became negative. And at the bottom, I just have 2 OP, AP, and the right side is just cosine of OPA. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go back and realize that I know what AP is, and I know what OP is. I'm going to plug them in for what they are. Remember, AP is the square root of x squared minus 16x plus 80, which means AP squared will be the same thing without the square root. So AP squared is this. Similarly, OP squared is this guy without the square root. And then minus 100 is just a minus 100. Divided by 2 times OP, which is this, times AP, which is this, and equals cosine of OPA. Let's clean anything up that we can. Hundreds cancel out because there's a plus 100 and minus 100. The x squares will add up, give you 2x squared. Everything else is the same for now. By the way, I know this looks like overwhelming, but when you do it yourself, even though you'll be slow, much slower than me, you will still get it because it's just basic algebra. Everything I've done from this point onwards has just been basic algebra. So watch the recording and try to follow along like by hand, and you will see that it's pretty obvious. Of course, if you have any questions, just give me a text. So now, let's see if what we have is the same as what we were supposed to get. That doesn't look nice. We don't have the same thing. Why? Does anybody know why our answer looks a little bit different from what we're supposed to get? What do you think? Wait, relax, relax. Look now. I put it on the left here. Try to compare what we have to what we were supposed to get. What do you think? Anybody know why it's slightly different for us? It's because they've cancelled out this 2 with a 2 from here, here, and here. Basically, they factored out a 2 at the top, which made it x squared minus 8x plus 40. And then they cancelled this guy with the 2 at the top. So they took the 2 common at the top and they cancelled it out, which gave you this. Same answer as what they have. Okay? Does this make sense now? It might not make a lot of sense, but do you agree with all the algebraic steps I've taken here?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, watch the video again and try to follow along by hand and you'll see that it makes a lot of sense. So now find in degrees the angle when x is 8. This is easy. All you gotta do is, we've already found what cosine of OPI is, right? All you gotta do is plug in x equals 8 into this, okay? And then solve for OPA. Okay, I'm not gonna do this, it's very easy. Second part's more fun. So this is part C. Part D is, We are now told that OPA is 60 degrees and we need to find the value of x that causes this. So using this equation that we have, we're going to plug in 60 degrees for cosine, sorry, for OPA, and then try to solve the equation for x. Now, okay, I just realized it's very easy for you because again, this is AI. You can plug it into your calculator directly. Remember, all you have to do is uh, put 60 here because that's what they said, and write down this equation in your calculator and solve it. That's it. Okay. There are two other parts to this. This is pretty important and it's a very difficult step. So let's work on this in the next class because I have to go to my next one. But for the time being, the class is over. If there's any questions, let me know.